Well, hello, good evening to you. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live more news up here at Desawe Kanda. I am Alfred Ocansey. Remember, we're also live as well across the world on 3news.com. Coming up tonight, we stay on the new Patriotic Party flag bearer race and the aftermath of Alan Kojo Manteng's withdrawal from the contest. We shall hear from the election committee of the NPP and a political marketing strategist on the matters arising. Very interesting developments tonight. Stay with us. Also, the National Democratic Congress is, among other things, demanding full details of the Electoral Commission's voter registration offices and the processes in what they say is in the interest of transparency. The 2024 presidential candidate of the party, that's a flag bearer, John Dramani Mahama, has been speaking. We'll find out how justified the demands are. We have the CDD joining us tonight on these issues. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. Also, we're live in Nigeria this evening, where the appeals court has rejected challenges to Bola Tinubu's narrow victory in February's presidential election. We speak to the head of research at News Central, one of the biggest private television networks in Nigeria. He's going to be joining us here on Ghana Tonight. As always, we're very, very interactive. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and Twitter. Let's get talking. If you go on our Facebook page, that's TV3 Ghana, we are running a poll because there's some indication that Alan Manteng, as he indicated in his statement yesterday, says in the coming weeks he would make known his next steps with respect to Ghana's politics or the role he's going to play. Indications of whether he's going to go independent or otherwise. There's a question there. Let's hear from you, your thoughts as well. A number of you, thousands of you have been sharing your opinions. We'll get to that as we go on the show. But let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The election committee of the New Patriotic Party has rescheduled balloting for flag bearer candidates until the committee has resolved outstanding issues with a special delegates conference. After a meeting on Wednesday, spokesperson of the committee, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, indicated that the committee will incorporate proposals from the candidates before releasing its final report.
We received some proposals. We deliberated on same and have agreed to incorporate these as part of the guidelines for the November 4th elections. We have also agreed that soon thereafter we shall proceed with the balloting.
The National Democratic Congress is requesting the names and pictures of electoral officers for the limited voter registration. The party's flag bearer, John Mahama, claims this is crucial for the transparency and reducing inconveniences.
We want to know when the names and pictures of the registration supervisors, registration officers, registration assistants, and other officials for the exercise will be published at the district level as stipulated by the EC regulations. We've also requested information on the exact number and distribution of workstations, registration kits, and other logistics to be used in the exercise.
The paramount chief of Mampon Traditional Council, Dasebre Osei-Bonso II, has warned the government not to follow the footsteps of the Europeans and Americans to legalize same-sex marriage in Ghana. Speaking at the 32nd Christoph Haynes African Human Rights Moot Courts competition in Kumasi, the second-in-command of Asante-Man entreated Parliament to ensure that the anti-LGBTQ+ bill is passed to maintain the sanctity of the country's culture.
We are waiting for you, our younger ones. It's start to popularity when you take that topic in your moot of court. For heaven's sake, don't say that Uganda must be ostracized just because they were bold to have passed a bill into law. Ghana, we have ours in parliament. And lo betides those parliamentarians, if they can about it, and emulate what is happening in America. They'll come and meet us in our respective kingdoms.
The Ghana Bar Association has blamed recent coups on rising corruption among African leaders, stating that it falls short of constitutional democratic rule and urges leadership to address corruption.
It's a sad commentary that after almost 5 decades of independence, Africa is still bedeviled with rampant corruption, plundering, embezzlement, and mismanagement of the public purse. This unending cycle of corruption has given military adventurers the impetus to truncate constitutional democratic rule with its attendant impunity and flagrant abuse of human rights.
The Health Minister, Kweku Agyeman-Manu, at a news briefing says government has secured new funding sources for commencement of the General Hospital redevelopment project in Accra, which was earmarked to have been completed in 2022.
We started working seriously on LA, and we still have contractors' material sitting on site. We are now shifting the source of funding. We virtually completed negotiations. We are getting reinforced designs and things like that. And soon, that is why I said LA will come back on stream. And the contractor is even still on site. Only that funds flow has made it slow down a little bit.
Well, there's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, we stay on the new Pretote Party flag bearer race and the aftermath of Alan Kojo Kyerematen's withdrawal from the contest. Now, we hear from the election committee of the party and a political marketing strategist, as well as a poll that we are running on TV3 Ghana on Facebook. It's a very interesting poll, which is pointing to a very interesting outcome. And we want to encourage as many of you as possible to go on Twitter, that's on X, and then also on Facebook, that poll that we're running about Alan Kyerematen, if he should go independent or if he should decide to go independent, how things are going to play out. But if you recall, these are the reasons why he decided to pull out of the race of the NPP's flag bearership. First, he says intimidation of varying intensity, inducement, which he didn't give much detail about, but obviously talking about the monetary inducement in there, the violence, which we saw his Northeast agent left with one eye bruised, super delegates conference strategically and tactically skewed in favor of one particular aspirant, and then the pronouncements by leading members of the NPP. That's what he says that pushed him to take this decision, Liz, all captured in that statement he put out yesterday. Well, the NPP has issued a statement responding to the issues that Alan Kyerematen raised in his statement, which I just pointed out to you. They are acknowledging the withdrawal of Alan Kyerematen from the contest, and that's the statement that you see on the screen there. And it says the leadership of the NPP acknowledges the receipt of the letter dated yesterday, signed by John Alan Kojo Kyerematen, and the contents therein are duly noted. Now, they said a note with regret Kyerematen's decision to withdraw from the upcoming presidential primaries. And they also indicate that it is worthy of note that both the Elections Committee and the Disciplinary Committee have initiated comprehensive investigations into all reported incidents of violence and infractions that are alleged to have occurred at various voting centers during the super delegates elections, which was held on Saturday, August 26. There's no clear indication of the details of the infractions as yet, whether this inducement Alan Kyerematen talks about is one of the things we're going to be looking into, but that's what they're saying in this statement. And if you look at the last paragraph of this statement, they are showing the stakeholders or the general public that the reports of the aforementioned committee will be made readily available, and persons who may be found culpable of any wrongdoing will be held accountable. That's the party's assurance, that persons who are found culpable will be held accountable. We'll hear from the Alan Kyerematen campaign team whether they believe in this assurance by the party of holding the persons accountable for what happened. But the election committee of the party has also rescheduled the balloting for the flag bearer candidates until the committee has resolved all the outstanding issues with the Super Delegates Conference. So that was after a meeting earlier today. Spokesperson of this election committee of the NPP, Alexander Fenyumake, indicated the committee will incorporate proposals for the candidates before releasing the final report. Take a look.
After a meeting which lasted over 5 hours, 2 aspirants and the representatives of the other 2 emerged from the meeting with the Electoral Committee. Spokesperson Alexander Fenyumake apprised the media of the deliberations.
We received some proposals. We deliberated on same and have agreed to incorporate these as part of the guidelines for the November 4th elections. We have also agreed that soon thereafter we shall proceed with the balloting.
According to TV3 news sources, Kennedy Japan is requesting for the disparate proceedings against him to be scrapped, a strong condemnation of the acts of intimidation in the election, and a rescission of the National Council decision to allow government officials to be polling agents in the November 4th polls. Regarding the withdrawal of Alan Kyerematen from the race, the spokesperson said the committee had accepted the resignation without prejudice.
We have also received the withdrawal letter officially by Honorable Kyerematen, and the party has accepted the withdrawal without prejudice.
The Electoral Committee will convene another meeting with the candidates next week.
Well, so that's what happened earlier today. Now, Alan Kyerematen, in this statement that he issued, talked about whether or not he has confidence in the party structures in dealing with the issues that he raised, because you've heard the party talks about the fact that they have instituted measures to deal with them. This is the part of the statement that points to it. It says, regrettably, I am not convinced that the circumstances I have referred to earlier will not persist or even be escalated in the next round of elections, for which balloting is scheduled for today. So that is expressed a lack of confidence in the MPP's structures in dealing with the issues that he has raised, the inducement and the violence and so on. Richard Nyama, who is a member of the Alan Kyerematen campaign team, when I spoke to him earlier, he indicated that even after the violence that was meted out on their agent in Northeast, the party was yet to reach out to them to find out exactly what was going on. Take a look. And we'll pull that up and let you see exactly what their concerns are and what really should be the way forward for them, and especially when it comes to the decisions that he is mulling, that's Alan Kyerematen is mulling, in the coming days or weeks, as is indicated in the statement that he put out earlier today, and then also the concerns that are coming from both sides of the political divide on this. But we'll go to Richard Nyama shortly, but let's connect with Professor Kobi Mensah. He is a professor of political marketing strategy and a lecturer at the University of Ghana, Legon, is joining us. Professor Kobi Mensah, thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. So you see the concerns that Alan Kyerematen raised before he decided to withdraw. And then also, if you recall, Boakye Jakun also raised concerns about the decision by the party to constitute an electoral college with the party's national council to decide between him and Francis Adainimo. Kennedy Japan raised some concerns as well, which the party says they are addressing. How does all of this impact on the brand, that is, of the NPP, considering what's happening?
I think it's unfortunate that NPP, a party that itself had complained about structural issues in elections, would repeat some of these things in their own internal elections. And I'll give you the history of it. If you cast your mind back to 1992 electoral processes, at the time, we selected presidential before we did the parliamentary elections. Led by Edibuahin, the MPP wrote what they call the stolen verdict, saying that the electoral process was fraught, and as a result, it wasn't a true reflection of the democratic will of the people. Onward, they boycotted the parliamentary elections, and so they never appeared in the 1992, parliamentary, election. They didn't go to parliament at the time. Now, fast forward, you set up an electoral system that says that let's choose or let's get some people called superdelegates to choose or to select 5 flag bearers, 5 contestants, and then let's take them to November elections. Clearly, you're going to actually influence unduly the November elections because the processes that you used, and even then, they were supposed to have a selection of 5 so that we don't see who is first and who is second. The reason why we don't conduct presidential elections and then later conduct parliamentary is because of a possible influence of certain type of voters, especially those who are, floating voters. If there's an assumption that someone has taken the lead, such people can be influenced by that assumption and vote in a particular direction. And that's why we do the elections at one stand. Now, you do this and you expect that the November wouldn't be influenced. And then you identify who came top and who is second. Clearly, someone will say that you have created a system for an undue advantage, for somebody or in favor of someone. So for me, I think that the party itself had dented its image, its brand image, for claiming to be a due process party per what they have done. Now, if you said that 9 of the contestants had rejected the centers kind of voting at various centers and had opted for a congregation, all right, at a place, it's safe to say that the majority must carry, the day. But you rather reject that and stick to what perhaps one person said they wanted. Now, let's assume that even that's what the party wanted. The 9 had given you the reasons why they thought that it wasn't a good idea. 1, it is easy for you to identify who voted what. In the procedural elections, the reason why we don't show ballot papers, as in where you voted, is because of possible intimidation, possible fear, or security implication. People must vote in all confidence that their ballot is safe, their ballot is a secret, and as a result would not fear the aftermath of the election. If you do center by center, like they did, in centers where there are not plenty, it is easy for people to be fished out if indeed there is a certain notion of intimidation. It is easy. I can't believe that in Northeast, all the 28 people really thought that Bawumia was the best candidate. It doesn't actually work like that. If you speak to people who are into group theories, social movement, those kind of things, in groups, certainly there will be deviants who would not toe the line of the, everybody else. But you see that there's a clear whipping of people in line. And so all the 28 people voted in a particular direction. And that is exactly what the candidate was speaking against, that if we do this type of thing, people will feel intimidated, and as a result, they will vote in a particular direction. You don't listen to them. You go ahead, and you expect that they will see the process as credible. I think that they have shot themselves in the foot. The brand MPP gradually is deteriorating. It had moved to be so personality-centered as opposed to the collective that we used to know them. And I think that they should actually take measures to address some of these issues.
Right, on that bit, because talking about measures they need to take, Alan Chimanting is also giving an indication of what his next step will be. Take a look at this. In that part of the statement that he issued, giving pointers of what his next step will be going forward. It says, in the next upcoming weeks, I will provide an indication of the role that I will play in politics in Ghana after consultations with my family and other well-wishers, various stakeholders and interest groups. Alan Kyerematen as an independent candidate, for instance, out of the many other options, Professor Kobi-Mensah, does he have the gravitas to make any significant impact in the 2024 elections?
To be honest, when he said Ghana politics, obviously, Ghana politics does not mean only local politics. I mean, the country has foreign policy, agenda, etc. Of course, Alan had become or had played international role before. He served, on I think World Trade.
WTO, World Trade Organization, yes.
World Trade Organization before. He could serve in a certain capacity that is not necessarily local politics, but on behalf of the country. It could mean that. But let's assume that he means coming back as an independent candidate. Look, people have made all sort of examples, analogies, and thinking, or it would be like, those ones. I disagree. Look, Alfred, the political landscape of Ghana has changed. People are not realizing it. 10 years ago, there was no vibrant social media platform. I remember 10 years, I was in Sheffield, we used to have all these Facebook, etc. But Ghana wasn't at that level, all right? There was very few or non-existent participation of young people. Those days, your stations, like many other traditional houses, media houses, must invite you, like you have done to me, to come and speak on certain topics, all right? These days, I don't need any media house to invite me. I can sit in my house, propagate political stories, and then achieve virality, all right? I can make a huge impact in the media scene when a certain political communication has gone viral, all right? All these dynamics have changed. It didn't used to be like that. Now, if you take the candidate that people making examples of and thinking that Alan going independent might result the way those candidates, I disagree. Look, in politics, and I always tell people, my students, when you're going into campaign, you have three elements at least. You have your candidate, you have your policy, you have your party. All right, so the party platform must have the element that can attract people into that ideological fold, all right, using the party's tradition, the party's track record, etc. Your policy credibility, the kind of policies you're advancing and how it touches on people's needs. And then your personality, whether you are credible enough for people to think that you can actually implement and see through those policies to affect their lives, including your own track record. And of course, your persona, your temperament, etc. These factors actually go into touching the campaign for people to think that you are credible enough to win elections. If Alan decides to go independent, I think that he had that personality, he had that track record, he has that temperament to make an impact. It does not mean that he would win, but for me, I think that it will be fundamental. He will have a fundamental impact on our political structure than we haven't seen before. Because if you take Indu when he arrived at the CPP, he didn't have that political clout. I mean, he had served in Kufuor's government before, and I think, yes, he had served in Kufuor's government in 2000, after 2000 election. But he didn't have that political aura around him. When he was on the CPP platform, CPP had quite a number of issues.
We'll see how the coming days will look like, Professor Kobi-Mensah, on this. And because he's indicated that in the coming weeks he will tell us what his future is. And you've done a very fantastic job about what the prospects will be like if he decides to go independent, and quite respected opinion there. Appreciate your time. Professor Kobi-Mensah is a political marketing strategist, senior lecturer at the University of Ghana. Thank you for your time here on Ghana Tonight. But this is, Richard Nyama was not too excited about the parties and the matters arising. He's a member of the Alan Kyerematen campaign team. When we asked a question about whether or not if he goes independent, what's your view on it? That's a question that we put on Facebook, and a number of comments came through. Take a look at this. a few comments, and then we'll show you as well the poll results, which point to something really interesting from the respondents that we had. These are some of the comments that we had on Facebook earlier today. Dennis Love says that, would you vote? So that was a question, if you vote for Alan if he goes independent. In our history, no independent candidate has won, so why waste the vote? No matter how you think you are teaming up, he says teaming up is always better. Suppose he wins, will he form an independent parliament or cabinet? So he says he can form a party and invite good people on board. That's cool, you say, because Ghana needs a third force. Fred Senam says, no way he will be a spoiler of the party's ticket. Raphael's Donko says, Alan Chamanting is the hope of Ghana and the symbol of hope for the youth. His great initiative and ambition, it says, goes on and on and on, talks about the prospects as well, and also why you think that his prospects going into it as an independent candidate. While we pull up the poll results on X, that's Twitter, interesting. Take a look. This is how things played out on X. We asked the same question. Would you vote for Alan Chamanting if he goes independent after pulling out of the MPP flag bearer race? We had over 4,556 of you casting your vote on this. 46% of you say yes, and 38% of you say no. And 17% says they're indifferent. So that's what is looking like. It says 44% say yes, and also 38% of the respondents say no. And those who are indifferent, 17%. You see the number of votes there as at just about 5:30 p.m. 4,556 of you have shared your thoughts on this. So the verdict is out there on this matter. But coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, the NDC is, among other things, demanding full details of the Electoral Commission's voter registration offices and the processes in what they say is in the interest of transparency. The 2024 flag bearer of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, has been speaking. We'll find out how justified the demands are, but this is what John Mahama said earlier today during a Facebook Live session, demanding the names and pictures of the electoral officers for the limited voter registration exercise, which starts in the next 6 days. Take a look.
I wish to add my voice to those who have called on the EC to reconsider its decision to restrict the registration exercise to its district offices only. Acquiring a voter ID card affirms one's right to vote, and access to a voter ID card should be easy and not limited by location. Every Ghanaian deserves the chance to exercise this democratic right. I strongly urge the Electoral Commission to facilitate the registration exercise in all its electoral areas to allow for easy access and a reduced burden on the citizenry in their quest to register. We want to know when the names and pictures of the registration supervisors, registration officers, registration assistants, and other officials for the exercise will be published at the district level as stipulated by the EC regulations. We've also requested information on the exact number and distribution of workstations, registration kits, and other logistics to be used in the exercise.
So this is the flag bearer of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama there. This demand that he's making, we sought to situate it in the law. What does the law say with respect to the demands that the NDC, by extension the flag bearer, is making on behalf of the party? Take a look at this. In the deed, Public Elections Registration of Voters Regulations 2016, as amended by CI 126, allows a party to make this request that John Mahama has just put out there and consequently reject the appointment of a registration officer or supervisor, but there's a condition to it. This is what the law says. 8.1. The Commission shall make available to the interested persons or parties at the district office the names and pictures of persons it proposes to appoint as registration supervisors, registration officers, registration assistants, and any other official for the centers not later than 14 days before they are appointed. So the emphasis there, the time period is 14 days, and we are 6 days away from this exercise. Now, the 2 says the objections to appointment of registration supervisors, a registered political party or any interested person may in writing object to any person proposed for appointment as a registration supervisor, a registration officer, a registration assistant, or any other official within 7 days after the names of the proposed officers have been made available. And bear in mind the time frame, 7 days. We're 6 days away. Now, the objection shall be based on factual and verifiable evidence and be made to the Commission. The Commission then shall communicate the decision of the Commission to the parties involved within 7 days after receipt of the objection. So this demand being made is very consistent with what the law says about elections in this country. And so we'll see what the Electoral Commission will do as to heeding to this demand by the NDC, which is consistent with what the law has indicated, as I put on the screen. But the NDC is not the only political party that has made this particular demand or asked the EC for a roadmap for the district level elections and then also this registration exercise. But let's stay a bit further on this and hear from Mensa Abrampa, who is a programs officer at the Center for Democratic Development, CDD. He's joining us on the telephone. Mr. Paul Mensa Abrampa, thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First of all, this is the Electoral Commission. So far, hasn't really given any indication that it is also responding to the concerns, not just by the NDC, but by other political parties, that the decision to have the registration for the new voters at their district level may disenfranchise other people, right? What's the CDD's own perspective on this particular issue?
Well, we've already registered our consent, and not after other podcasts at the NDC or any other person has said. In fact, when we had a hint that the Electoral Commission will be conducting the limited voter registration site, the official announcement had not even come out. And we had a hint that it will be done in their district offices. My initial comment was the concern of the remote areas, people who are very far from their district capitals, and considering the fact that most of them even are able to access their district capital on market days, only on market days, and sometimes even difficult to get vehicles to the places, not even forgetting the poverty level in those areas that people don't go. But when they did the official announcements, and it came to light that they are now considering, in addition to the Ghana card, also reactivating the vouching system. So people who do not have the Ghana card can also be guaranteed to register by having two people to vouch for them.
Right.
Then it means now it's not only the person who is going to register who will be traveling from his place to the district office, but also have to go with two additional people. So then became worse for all the factors that we were considering when the hint of them doing it at the district offices came about. Yeah, so yes, and considering the Constitution, it mandates the Electoral Commission to facilitate a process that will afford the opportunity to every Ghanaian who qualifies to be registered and to vote, the opportunity to do that at no cost or little cost to the person. So these are some of the things that we have to benchmark with the decision that the Electoral Commission has taken.
I see. But then again, we've seen instances where concerns have been raised about the increasing mistrust for the Electoral Commission. And the fact that, as we speak, there hasn't been any response to address the concerns that the political parties and you, CDD, have raised about some people possibly being disenfranchised because of the decision to have this voter registration exercise at their district offices, contrary to your proposals. What should be the posture of the EC so that they can address the issues of confidence and also the mistrust that people have expressed?
I don't see the link of this decision to any factor of mistrust. Mistrust will be there when the allegations of fraud or manipulation or biases come in. But it's a general concern that does not favor only one group of people or only one political party. It's a national issue that we need to discuss. We need to discuss dispassionately, devoid of any consideration of favoritism that any contestant in the race of elections may gain. It's a cut across. So if you take the strongholds of the two leading political parties, there are villages, remote areas, and voter regions, as it is in Ashanti region. So it's something that we need to discuss across board, devoid of any form of biases. The EC has said, don't forget, this issue came about sometime when we were considering the continuous voter registration. And I think that these are people did not take it serious. If the continuous voter registration system had been activated, it's going to be through the district offices. So this same issue was going to come up. So it's an issue that we need to discuss and discuss thoroughly, not only for this registration, but for all future registration systems. How do we institute the program such a way that it has no potential to disenfranchise people because of lack of resources to present themselves to a particular voting or registration center to do so, or lack of, what do we call it, distance, because of the distance from their areas. Don't forget, hitherto people needed the voter card because of other facilities you could use to access. Banking system, when you want any identification, the voter card was the primary card that was available to most of the people in the country, especially the difficulty in acquiring passports. Now the Ghana card is there. So the pension, so the deal for people to scramble for voter registration is not there.
True.
So that's one thing that EC to consider, not to so that people are not already who are not motivated to do so will not also get frustrated not to do so at all.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. Paula Brampa-Mensah is Programs Manager for Center Democratic Development, CDD, there. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, we go straight into the concerns expressed by major parties in this decision. We understand that government is considering a takeover of the National Investment Bank, NIB, by the Agricultural Development Bank, ADB, and as part of some measures to help restructure the National Investment Bank, which has been going through some challenges over the past years. Professor Lord Mensah is a professor of finance at the University of Ghana Business School. He's going to be joining us right after this quick break with his thoughts on this. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint as compared to other paint brands on the market. We take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
I want you so bad, Alfred Cracker. I want you. I wanna say yes, I can't resist. I want you. Ooh, I want you, Alfred Cracker. I want you so bad, Alfred Cracker. Don't me call one casa.
Ever goodness rich in milk and butter in Alpha Cracker. Yummy and deliciously crunchy.
But I can't resist you.
Alpha Crackers, simply irresistible.
This advert is FDA approved.
Who wins the Ultimate Energy Personality of the Year at the 7th edition of your prestigious Ghana Energy Awards? Under the theme, Ghana's Energy Transition Framework, Sector Institutions as Building Block for the 2030 to 2040 target. You can nominate yourself or an institution for categories such as CEO of the Year, Energy Investment Impact Award, Energy Signature Award, Endorsement, Validation, Industry Partners, Media Partners, TV3, Ghana Energy Awards, 7 years of redefining excellence.
Everybody knows Acrobato. And if you know Acrobato, it means you know M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic is my pillar. Let's hear what others are saying about M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. Who will be careful M-Punch one? Ha!
Chesena me ankasa me period na say problems wom tina ma wo ho idea ma me papa chesena nya asem ketewa na mkwan point no mo hwe me modam no mo hwe bibia na so mo medu a me fae no ene ma won kra mienu foforo kwa na mkwan mu a eba head everything yourself
me ma me no adwodwo eda ho a wontumi nante ene ne ko end point o mama no nura ene ne ho idea watimi asori anante.
That's end point for you of Acrobato. Hello hey ohwehwe what che okay e free bra wo di end point wa dance am me call you no me just say my name koye and person my emre nyina and na magina sebema na me no be fear for there the one dey nyina jaresa. You heard everything. I have secret. M-Punch is my secret. M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. I'm free.
When you have the extra bit of ambition in your heart, you also need extra bit of energy to come through. And for that, Rush Energy is the perfect boost to get over the line. Created in the USA and proudly made in Ghana. Thanks to the unique formula, you have the power of ginseng, the benefit of vitamins and all the energy of inositol, taurine and caffeine. Anytime you need to go beyond, Rush Energy will help you get there.
Artificial intelligence, creativity and sustainability. Join this year's Africa Rising 6, brought to you by the International Advertising Association IAA at the Kempinski Hotel, Gold Coast City, as we uncover the power of building future-ready brands on 5th and 6th September. Speakers Sasan Saidi, World Chairman and President, International Advertising Association, Andrew Techiapia, co-founder and MD, ZPay, Letepu Machaba, Independent Business Leader, former Vice President of Home Care, Unilever, Ivan Moroki, CEO, Kanta South Africa, Guy Parker, Chief Executive, Advertising Standards Authority, United Kingdom, Steve Papaiko, CEO, Extreme Ideas, Sami Awuku, Director General, National Lottery Authority, and many more. This conference is sponsored by Margins Group, ZPay, Google, MTN, GOIL and NLA, Media Partners, CNN, Media General, Graphic Communication Group. Register now at www.africarising.iaaglobal.org for more information or contact Nanajwa on 0242 528 431 or the AAG Secretariat 0244 440477.
for another cultural explosion like never before. On 21st September, Africa will witness an ultimate celebration of African diversity and flavor at the 3FM Afro Connect event. This is the place to experience the magic of African arts and creativity. You also get to unite in a sizzling jollof war competition, igniting a culinary showdown. Will Cote d'Ivoire hold the jollof war title? So whether you're passionate about food, art, games, or simply making new connections, 3FM Afro Connect event on the 21st of September is the place to be. Venue, Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park. To sell, call 053-220-0927. 3FM Afro Connect, connecting Africa and beyond.
Brought to you by 3FM 92.7, your urban lifestyle radio. The 3FM Afro Connect is proudly sponsored by...
Welcome back to Ghana Tonight. We are live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. Now, there is a reported decision that is being considered by government to have the Agricultural Development Bank, that's ADB, take over the NIB. Now, here's what we do know. Take a look at this. Now, based on earlier reports, the government of Ghana, in terms of the constitution of the ADB shareholding, Financial Investment Trust has a little over 64%. And then the government of Ghana, 21.5%. The Ghana Amalgamated Trust, PLC, 11.26%. And then you have retail investors and ADB staff also holding some 3.2%. This is how the ADB shareholding structure is. And the bank, if you recall, successfully listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange on the 20th of December 2016. Now, take a look at this as well. What we do know as now going forward is that based on the earlier reports, the government of Ghana is set to have more than 50% stake in the National Investment Bank, NIB. It also follows by the Financial Trust Fund held by the Bank of Ghana with a little over 44%. The remaining shares are held by some investors. This is the NIB structure. NIB, put it on record, is Ghana's first development bank, established in 1963 and primarily to promote rapid industrialization and other related projects that government also would invest in. But over the period, they have suffered serious financial impairment. And for some time now, the government has been injecting money in there to sustain this bank. We understand for the past couple of years, they have not also published their financials. So that's another issue dealing with. Professor Lord Mensah is an economist and a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. He's joining us on Zoom. Thank you, Professor Lord Mensah, for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First off, your take on this whole idea that government is considering the takeover of the NIB by ADB. Is this a feasible financial option?
Yeah, for me, I think that would not be the best option. I mean, to allow ADB to absorb, NIB. They are all state institutions. Government owns, the largest share in both, institutions. And first of all, let's look at the economic, aspect of it. And then I can tell you that there's also a social dimension which we may have to look at. The economic aspect is that the government is struggling in itself. Economically, things are tough. And so if you want to divest, state assets, it shouldn't be another state, institution coming to absorb it. If you look at ADB and then the NIB, their operation standards are the same. Clearly they lend to governments, contractors. And if you look at their, loan portfolio, chunk of them are with government contractors. And, government is not paying the contractors for them to pay back, this loans. And so they all have the same, kind of financial structure. And if we can go by their balance sheet, we can confidently say that ADB is not that strong, on its balance sheet to absorb, NIB. And by so doing, if you put the two together, you end up having a merged entity, which is, even weaker than the two that were in existence, separately. So effectively, we are looking at the value of the, NIB and then ADB existing separately, and then putting them together, which will further weaken, the entity that will come out of the two merging. So from where I sit, I think it's not the best option. What government needs at this time is to get external funding. So why won't government lay off its shares to a private man, to invest in, NIB, then looking at the financial architecture that NIB has assumed, across the country, they have branches almost everywhere. And we can comfortably say that, any investor that will buy such, entity will not be running at a loss. So from where I sit, I think government needs some briefing, when it comes to obligations towards some of these state institutions. And we need a private, investor to come in, to give us that kind of, briefing space. Another thing we may have to look at is, NIB, has a history. It used to be national, that's the National Investment Bank. And having that history, it has, employed several people. And I can tell you that, when bank exists for some number of years, we have to look beyond, just the financial benefit that we get, the state get from the bank, and then also the economic benefit. There's a social benefit that, the state gets from the bank indirectly. Right. Because, the bank has come to exist for a long term, which it has employed several Ghanaians. Now we look at the economic situation now. If you are to merge the two banks together, I can tell you that anywhere you have ADB, NIB being apart for about 100 meters, one branch will close. So possibly we have ADB and NIB closer, about 100 meters apart. NIB branch may be closed. And if it get closed, that manager who was sitting in that branch will not be absorbed to the ADB branch because the functions are the same. And then the workers there may not be absorbed too. So those workers are going to be laid off. For somebody to take on a job and then taking care of the family and looking at the economic situation now, possibility of laying them off, you will end up creating economic mess. Mm-hmm. And the social fiber, of the economy may be affected because you break, household incomes. So from where I sit, I think, it's not the best, for NIB to absorb, for ADB to absorb NIB. We need, external, funds coming so that, it will give that kind of financial muscle to NIB to operate.
Appreciate your time. Very comprehensive analysis of your position on this matter. Thank you. Thank you so much. Professor Lord Mensah is an economist and a financial analyst and also a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. We'll see how the coming days will look like on this ADB NIB issue. But coming up next, before we go, we're live in Nigeria shortly because the appeals court that has rejected challenges to Bola Tinubu's narrow victory in February's presidential election. And this are some of the scenes in court earlier today. All the 5 judges who sat at the tribunal, election tribunal on this case, ruled on this matter in the same manner. And Abdul Latif Ahmed, let's cross over to Lagos now. Abdul Latif Ahmed is head of research at News Central TV. Is connecting with us from Lagos. Appreciate your time here on Ghana Tonight, Abdul. So how are Nigerians reacting to this development, this ruling by the tribunal earlier today?
Yes, so Nigerians from all walks of life have responded. Some are excited, especially those that are aligned with the ruling party. Some are unhappy, especially those who ordinarily expect something different, at the tribunal. But generally speaking, Nigerians expect this judgment just the way it has come. You'll see a lot of flurry of arguments online, and all of that. But again, on the streets, every Nigerian is just going to adjust to, whatever it is that the judgment says. But again, those who are angry and unsatisfied with it will lead their, the next challenge to the Supreme Court. And again, it is unlikely that the Supreme Court will give any judgment that is different from what the Presidential Election Tribunal has given, because all points that needed to be exhausted must have been exhausted at the tribunal.
So I'm sure the persons involved in this petition have been talking, Peter Obi and then also Atiku Abubakar. What have they been saying after this ruling?
For instance, the Labour Party has outrightly rejected, the outcomes of the Presidential Election Tribunal. It has rejected it, and I think it's going to contest the judgment, which is fine. I mean, democracy allows for you to exhaust all the possible options, that are available. That's fine. That of the PDP, I am not sure what it will do next, but it is also likely to challenge the results and then move on. However, other political parties have started congratulating, the president. They've received encomiums from, across board. A lot of people who expected that the judgment will be in favor of the president are already sending laudatory messages and all of that. And that's not unexpected anyway. It's a political season, and people continue to align with where they feel they are more satisfied with.
Indeed. Appreciate your time. Abdul Latif, thank you so much for joining us on Ghana Tonight from Lagos, where you are. And I understand that it's about midnight there. Thank you very much. He's head of research digital with News Central, the leading private television channels in Nigeria. Let's take a look at this. Based on the ruling by the tribunal earlier today. Take a look. Just a summary of what they said. In the Court of Appeal, Nigeria, this 5-member justice panel ruled that the third-place finisher, Peter Obi, and his Labour Party were not able to prove his claims that the Nigerian Election Commission did not follow due process in announcing the results of the vote, nor that the vote was marred by irregularities and that he, not Tinubu, won the election with majority of the votes. Essentially, it is quoted as saying that it is clearly evident that the petitioners have failed to discharge the burden of proof placed on them by law. That's according to Haruna Chamani, who's the head of this 5-member panel on this election case in Nigeria. They have not been able to leave any cogent, credible, and acceptable evidence. It's also rejected a petition by Allied People's Movement, which sought to nullify Tinubu's victory on the grounds that his running mate, Vice President Kashim Shettima, was not legally nominated to contest. It said Shettima met the minimum constitutional provisions allowing him to run. So where the Constitution has qualified a candidate to contest an election, no other law except the Constitution can disqualify him, unquote. That's what the ruling of the 5 justices on the panel on this case was. But I want to say thank you very much for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. Join us same time tomorrow. On behalf of the rest of the team, we appreciate your company. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Name one symptom of malaria. Cold and shivering is correct. True, and that is wrong. With your hand.